Morning, YouTube. Well, it's Saturday morning, and since I told you all that, I decided to listen to the whole album, Times Are Changing, from start to finish. And since no one's abused me or anything from my last videos, because there's a lot of people out there who know a lot about Bob Dylan, and that's why I love Bob Dylan a lot too, because his fan base can be quite opinionated, which is good in a way. As long as we can accept within each other that sometimes we can be wrong and our opinions aren't right, and we don't need to force them on each other. And there was some news that came over from something. I don't really talk about a subject too much because it really, really hurts. And a couple of years ago, I had a brain injury, which pretty much sent my mind blazing in a way. And since then, I've been diagnosed with epilepsy, and I have to have mega medications. So, and then last year, I got told I had an aneurysm at the base of my neck, my brain, and it would burst within 5 years. So I had to have it operated on. And so I'm quite amazed in all the teamwork that has helped me survive. And sometimes I haven't been putting much effort into myself because I've been majorly depressed lately with a lot of things. Like, my smile is a front most of the times but this is not about me. This is about a subject that causes a lot of emotions to go around, and I think it's going to take a couple of videos, I believe, because I don't want to rush it. But there's this song on Times Are Changing called We've Got On Our Side. And to me, Bob's like a Western world Tolstoy in a way. He has an excellent way of simplifying the picture without alienating anyone or putting anyone on a pedestal. And as a child, I noticed a lot around everywhere a book called War and Peace. And it actually scared me because it was very, very big. And I did some research on it last night, and it was written by Tolstoy, and I've never read it, and I am going to read it. And it's a beautiful book by the sounds of it. He did some research around the Napoleon who's. I actually thought Napoleon was before the French Revolution. I have to redo my history, I think. And he goes around and does a little bit of research about the Napoleon era and then the Russian Revolution. And in the conclusion, he turns around and pretty much says that war and heroes of man are not one person. It's the small events that make it to the big event and the drama, and it's the way we interact with each other simply that can bring a war on. And as a young child, I was always taught about World War I and World War II, not about the way it started. Never learnt about the way it started. It was more about how many people suffered or died. Like in World War I was taught it was the everlasting war, the Great War. And then we go into World War II, where a lot of people were persecuted, not by one person, but by a lot of people. But we didn't learn that. We just learned that it was Hitler, and that was it. We learned that the Jews were persecuted. We didn't learn that more Russians, just people with disabilities, poor people as well, were also persecuted. And then I did a little bit of research, and the links are down the bottom, and please, please, please go and click on the links, because it really scares me now. Like, World War II hasn't stopped. It's sort of, we haven't learned. If you look at the links, there's so many genocides that have happened. If you look at the one I put on about Palestine and Israel, there's a lot to that story that no one knows. There's a lot to my homeland is the Middle East, but I don't know anything about it because my grandfather was too scared to teach me about my homeland because of the conflicts and the judgments. And now we're stepping into an era where we don't even need soldiers. We can just grab on a boat and push a few buttons and have a little robot go and kill a few people and the person we want. No courts, no tribunals, no judges, no nothing. Just press a button because I said so. Aren't our children worth a little bit more than that? So what do we do? What do we do to stop the wars, stop the masters? Because we all are masters in a way. We go on with our everyday lives where these wars are happening, where these killings are happening. And we pretend that God is a gun, and the gun is, or the bombs are our saviour. And that's the saddest of all, because if you look at any religion, or even if you see, I don't even like using the word God because of the way it's been abused, or if you look at the energy of life and creation, and if you look at the birth of a child, children aren't born to kill, they're not born with guns. They learn to hate, they learn to kill for whatever reason. So maybe we should start looking into why is there an excess of guns if we've been trying to succeed for peace? Shouldn't those companies be held accountable or anything? Like here in Australia, when Port Arthur happened, a great massacre, our Prime Minister actually took a really big step and said, okay, we've got too many guns in Australia, we're going to buy some back. And crime rate dropped immensely. Gun crime dropped. It's starting to rise again now because we've got no leaders to lead our country for the last 10 years. But that's another story for another day. So listen to that song with God on our side. And truly ask yourself, have you got God on your side, or have you got death on your side? Because if you look at all the religions, they all say we're the image of God. God doesn't kill, we kill. The energy of life doesn't destroy, we destroy. For whatever reason. Because no one is better than another. That's how God made us. God made us different for a reason. So why don't we start learning what that reason is instead of destroying it? And start seeing what companies are over it. There's too many guns. Let's get rid of them. We don't need that many. Because if God was on my side, I don't need a gun. And I've survived a lot in my life. And I'm just in a mess today. I'm just in a complete and utter mess because we don't learn. We're children killing children, and that's all we are. We've got on our side. So in a book that was written in 1869 to a song that was recorded to 1964 to 2020, we are still at war. And we still let our leaders let us believe that there's people out to hurt us when they're not. Because if you look at all the stories from, like, there's so many stories, even in the Book of War and Peace, where the French and the Russians met individually and they became friends. But they were at war. In World War I and World War II, on Christmas Day, front lines spoke and talked to each other, and then went to war and killed each other the next day because their leaders were telling them to, not because they wanted to, because they were made to believe there was an evil out there. Now, if God is that powerful, don't you think God can protect us from that evil if we all think about it? Because thoughts are more powerful than anything. Take the story of Jericho and how the wall came down, and start living by your God, not by your gun, because I've had enough. Bye, YouTube, and thank you everyone for doing your best, for those that do care to live and not die.